Alright, Mopar people, welcome back to the channel. I'm JustMoparJoe. Behind me, I have the 500 stroker block for a well-known YouTuber out there. More specifically, for a well-known Mopar restoration YouTuber. I promised I would tell y'all who it was today in this video. I'm also going to do the complete block prep on the engine behind me. So it started off a lot worse than this. So let's go back in time and go to work. This will be a long one. So here's our 400 block that I previously was going to put in my Challenger. Then I realized it had a little bit too much wear in the cylinders. I got to get that wiped out. You can see those fingerprints. This has been finish honed, and this was done by Mr. Rick Seaman. He actually checked this out for me, and so our finish hone's done. He does have a profilometer and torque plate for a Big Block Mopar, so all that's cool. You'll notice this is not decked, and there's a reason behind that. Number one, we checked the deck, and it was like within 1,000th from end to end with his machinist straight edge. So that was nice for us that we didn't have to deck it. But also the pistons and stroker kit that we have, that came from a buddy, you'll find out here shortly. It's right on the ragged edge of too much compression for the street. And I told him, you know, if we didn't have to deck it, then he's going to end up being better off because he wants to run 91 or 93 octane. So we figured all that in before the build began. And what I got to do today is get the block cleaned up, get my new cam bearings in, get these old ugly plugs out. I'll probably have to heat them. I need to do a new tower bushing. I don't know if I have the tool here or not to do that, so I may need to borrow one or buy one. Yeah, old bearings out, new freeze plugs in, get the block washed up and painted up. So if I don't get it all finished today, it will be in this video. This block was cleaned out. It was never vatted, but it's one of the cleanest ones I've ever seen. So we're gonna keep pushing forward. So there is our tower bushing, whatever you'd like to call it. I'm gonna get the block flipped over here. And I got just a piece of simple bar stock. I don't know what I had it left over from, but I can get it right down in there on the edge of that sucker. And since this hasn't been vatted, like my 512, I vatted it, and that bushing was left in, so it's the old stock aluminum one. It turned to nastiness, and we had to pry it out, cut it out, cry about it, everything. Let me see how easy this one goes. Right on the edge, I can see it from my angle. It's kind of hard for y'all to see, but there we are. Little stock aluminum piece. It probably would have been fine. I don't truly know, but I've got a nice brass one to go in. And I found my installer. Check it out. The OTC driver burnisher. And got the instructions with it. I think I've only ever done one with this, but my buddy Chris got me that a while back. We put one in a 440 and said, man, you keep it, you might need it someday. So here we go. I'm not going to put the new one in yet until I do all my washing, brushing out, and everything else. I've got my block plugs out, core plugs. So here's the one you can actually see all the way through. And I haven't brushed that or touched it or anything. It is so wonderful. There's a little bit of black carbon in there. This engine was super, super, super clean on the inside. Maybe the cleanest one I've ever seen, but there it is. I'm still gonna brush them out, both sides, get my casting flash cleaned up, and then we'll give it a good couple washes. Make this thing really, really, really nice today. Cam bearing time. I got a new block plug set here, and I'll have a new big plug here for our cam plug, whatever you wanna call it. So I just stuck my driver in, and I'm gonna knock it out. No big deal. I'm gonna probably be quick with my cam bearings here. I got this cam tool from a viewer, I believe Mr. Dean Johnson, so I appreciate him. It's been a few years back now. Now, some of y'all will notice that I cheated and did that front one first so my tool could actually get through. This is kind of my little process here, and I've talked about this before with Ed. The tool itself is tight inside the bearing right now, and I've got it nice and tight in there. So after I get my first couple of hits and it starts moving, see half the bearing's hanging out there, I like to loosen just a little bit, and that way you know it's not going to slip past the bearing itself, but it won't score the inside of that housing, because sometimes the tool itself can rise out and leave you big nasty scratches if somebody was too lazy just to loosen off on it a little bit, or they didn't know, or whatever. But probably easier to slip my wrench from the bottom or do all these with the block upside down. I was trying to film for you all. There we go. I'm gonna pick those up. We're gonna check them out here in a little. Well, this could be the start of a bad day. You see my square popped right off there, and that was after I had wire wheeled around it and heated it for about 60 seconds. So I got myself an old nut that is slightly drilled out on the inside, and it will slide on down there some. And I'm gonna put a little weld on it, and we'll try to twist it out. That's all we can do. Definitely worth showing the struggles and the successes in this kind of deal. There's my 4 nuts I tried to weld on, and that's kind of my janky Chinese welder there. I went ahead and drilled her. Check this out. If you've ever been here, you know that's such a nice feeling. I didn't touch a thread, didn't nick anything. Look at that. Beautiful. And there it is after it was drilled. I'm going to wash this out, brush this out, clean this out anyway, but that could have been a bad day. And I didn't want to leave a plug in and not be able to clean it out. You can see that one actually goes, connects through right there. Maybe too dark to see. I'm gonna vacuum that trash out too, dig it out with my pliers, blow it out, clean it out. It's cleanup time, baby. And I've got my 440 source 9/32 drill bit. I'm gonna drill number 2, 3, 4, and 5 mains at the angle, not the one that goes straight down, but at the angle. And if you follow that, it actually goes into this lifter galley right there. See the little piece of wire? So all I was gonna do with that is get the depth. So there's my marked depth, and I'm gonna put myself a piece of marking tape on my bit so I don't go too deep. Rodney Bird says you'll know when you get through there because it'll break through, but and be a lot easier. So I just want to be real careful with this situation, but get us some more oil coming to our bottom end. There's no telling what our man wants to do with this. Got a little lube on the end of our bit, and we're going slow. Give me a little more lube. Not too bad. Let's pull this up just a little bit. Light pressure. Here my bit's looking like. I'm gonna give it a little clean. There we go. One more time. Good Lord. I got my first wash done, and all I did was coat this entire thing in oven cleaner. I let it set on for probably 5-10 minutes and pressure washed it really, really well. So now I can, and I rolled it a couple times. Got most of that old dirty paint off. I think my next step's gonna be clean up my flashing. It's not gonna be bad. I got a little bit of gasket I still need to scrape on the front. I want to dress my pan rail and stuff up real nice, make it look pretty, and then I'll mess with my decks just a little bit, make them look nice again. Got to wipe these out. The whole thing is getting degreased again after I do my grinding. So if I'm getting my grind on, I'm gonna open my windows up all the way down, take any crunchy, crusty, nasty spots off. That front one there, that's all simple stuff. Pretty much everybody does, I think. Let the oil flow down a little easier, and if you're putting a cam, it doesn't mess your hands up as bad, really. I gotta keep on pushing my process here. You can see how clean I got my pad, how clean and nice I got my gasket surfaces, front of my cam bearing, cam tunnel, whatever you want to call it. It's all looking good. I got a lot of grinding stuff in here, old nasty stuff. I would not use my Scotch-Brite like this on the deck. Some people do, I just don't. I'm gonna do the old Ed Matlock trick here of a piece of sandpaper laid on a flat file, and we're gonna file it each direction, get these decks cleaned up nice. This is a piece of 320, so it is not very rough. I might put a little degreaser with it just to keep it clean and stuff, but we'll see how it goes. I'd like to film the entire process, but a lot of times it's easier to go ahead and put this down and get more work done. Also, the sun is pretty brutal today. It's 107 in my truck thermometer, so nothing to it. Basically all we're doing. You can see our high spot shining. And I'll just keep going until we're nice and cleaned up. I think y'all be pretty pleased with this here shortly. Making the progress. I went ahead and pressure washed everything again, and I'm using my degreaser from KBS Coatings. We're not doing KBS Coatings on this, but I've got some of that degreaser and the rust prep. It's actually like the rust blast, so it's going to put a phosphate coating on this before it gets primed. So I got more of that degreaser. I'm just going to run through and spray my holes here. I can basically shoot it all again. I know my cylinders are going to try to flash rust on me, so I got to be moving quickly. And there's my oil galley hole there, front. Shooting all these. I'm going to just brush them all out real quick. Get some of that fuel rod hole here. Remember, we're going 2 directions on these. There we go. And just a second, I'll flip it over and do the lifter bores. I can't get to, there we go. Can't scrub those out yet because my stand's upside down. I can't do the front one at least. A handful of different brushes here. I'll start with my long one. If you need one of these, I got mine from Goodson. Drew got me that. So, all this runner in. Yeah, I got my brush all the way in. There's my little drill. I'll put it on low. And basically, I'm gonna push and pull it. It's usually easier to pull, but when I free up my other hand, I'll be able to go in and out with it several times and wash out that lifter galley really well. Remember, my cam bearings are not in yet. And that's going to help us in just a second with our other, when we're going through mains here. I got a nylon and I got a metal. So I think I'm going to do my metal first. Since my cam bearings aren't in, I don't have to worry about that goodness coming out there. Hopefully you can see that. Yep. Booyah. Going running down the line. Our vertical one first. And then that angle one. Where are we at? Oh baby. She's nice and loose now. I don't even think there's really a need to brush those out just quickly because they've been reamed with our drill bit. Obviously we don't want trash and debris and whatever, but I can nylon brush those in just a second. See how nice and free that is? My nylon brush is just a little bit larger diameter. Oh, there we go. Wide open. Right. Give it another shot. There's nylon. I got a pump up sprayer at the other shop that I like to put my degreaser in. That way you're not having to, you can just pick it up and shoot basically. There's no angle on number 1, just that one straight down. So I guess I can let the cat out of the bag. This engine is for Dave at Rust Bucket Restos to go in his Charger that he's been rebuilding on his channel since it began. Dave reached out and chose me to be his engine builder because he likes what I do on YouTube and he's a good dude. However, I need y'all to go over to Dave's channel, Rust Bucket Restos, and tell Dave that I need a crankshaft to be able to build his engine. Because currently he's only sent me pistons. So we could get it bored and honed, finish honed, with pistons. So tell Dave to send me a crank. Let's keep going. I'm gonna flip it over now and do my top 2, my other oil galley hole on that side, and then my other oil holes. See, I still got one here. I can go ahead and get to it now. I can ream through here too. It's just basically for our oil pump shaft. Get big dog stuck in there. Good. Get littler dog stuck in there. Good. And now we just go to town brushing. Yes. Of course I want to cheat just a little bit. Lovely. Set it aside. This one is a little tighter. Yeah. That one does not go very far. It just basically makes a curve here to get into our, there we go, pickup tube hole. See there? So we're just connecting that one to here. Not a big deal. But I want to brush it out as well. Brush those out. I got to go down my lifter bores. Something blew up over there somewhere. It wasn't me. And I'll go down those two that feed the rocker shaft. Beautiful. Hit our big brush and hit our lifter bores. And I'm almost ready to wash this thing out again and let it dry overnight. Obviously I'm going to spray down my cylinders and my decks so they won't flash rust, but kind of running out of time for the day. In and out. I've got about 4 hours or so on block prep so far, and I don't have it painted. But I did have to pull the freeze plugs and all that this morning, so it's not a race, it's a marathon. There we are. Probably dry it out some. I got a 3,500 pound, 3,100 PSI pressure washer. It's gonna help some of this stuff when we're done as well. And I got to get my long brush for this side. Remember when we flipped? When I come back, this thing will be dried off and we can start with it tomorrow, making it pretty again. Here is our beautiful 400 block about 2 days later. I still don't have a crankshaft or rod from Dave at Rust Bucket Resto, so if y'all have not gone there right now and left him a message under a video, please do that, because it's good to get the word out, and I want to get some parts so I can build this thing. So what I want to do, as I'm finishing up my prep stuff, you can see my WD-40 is kind of soaked back down into here. I got some simple brake cleaner and a rag. I don't want to have to degrease this and pressure wash it again and again and again. So I'll do my brake clean, get that stuff cleaned off, and then I can go with my rust blast stuff. So, I mean, y'all know what brake cleaner looks like. It's not a big deal. This is just O'Reilly's. Simple stuff. Take a terry cloth and keep wiping until we don't see any more oily residue. I knocked off my casting flash here, just some of that ugly And under here, all the little ugly raised sections ran around my perimeter, knocked off. On my 512, this was the only place that I had to grind for stroker clearance, and I think it was actually a rod that was going to touch it. So I can't say that I'm totally done with the block today until I get that crank in and get it test fit. There's that product if y'all would like to check it out. The Rust Blast, and all I did was just go around, lightly soak everything. You're supposed to keep it wet for 30 to 60 minutes. And I'm doing this in the shade. It's actually not humid right now, so that's a blessing. And it doesn't take much, just kind of runs down. I even shot a little in down in my water jackets and stuff. But she's nice and wet. I don't have to worry about any of the, like if that cam bearing was in here and that landed on it, it would kind of start to etch it and look bad, so I wouldn't do that. Shoot a little in here. And I'll roll it over in just a minute, but you kind of get the idea. I got my brake cleaner rag. I wanted to keep the decks dry because it'll start to etch those and they look kind of funny. And I've got those pretty clean now, so Rust Blast ran down. So this has all been etched. 30 minutes, I went ahead and re-pressure washed it very quickly. So now I've blown my block dry. I wiped down all my bores again with a little WD-40 to keep them from flash rusting. And I've got my handy dandy propane torch out. We're about to prime and paint this thing. It's still nice and humid free out here. Well, low humidity out here. And we'll just go along, start in one corner and run all the moisture out that we can. I know the process. I've done this before. I've got a video painting with the KBS coatings. It's very similar, and KBS was nice enough to comment on the video and tell me I did everything great. So that was nice of them. We are doing VHT on this block, so it'll be all rattle can. And I like the VHT stuff. It actually turns out a lot nicer than the old ugly Duplicolor stuff. I may get my big torch back out like I've done previously and heat this thing up. It goes a lot faster than a little hand torch. Now you can really see where we've etched it nicely. I flipped this over twice and dried it with my big torch. And it is very warm to the touch. So I'm gonna put my Max Air fan on it, get it nice and cooled off. There's no way you want to spray paint on something that hot right now and the paint actually sticks. Also, I forgot to mention, cleaning threads and everything, that happened before my final pressure wash, so I realize it's not in the video, but it's done, so I would do it before building. First coat of primer on, the VHT engine enamel primer. Pretty good stuff. I'll probably do 2 coats. I just really wanted to fill in some of the pores of the block, stuff like that, little crunchy imperfections. Give it a good thing to adhere to on the real paint. We got the VHT Hemi Orange. And waiting 30 minutes before putting our next coat on. Back in, cleaned up, dried totally. Had it sitting in the air conditioner. So now I can do my cam bearings. So I got just a little light lube in there. A lot of people don't like to put lube. I don't like them dry. That's not how I roll. That bearing will not spin in there if it has the correct amount of press. And that's just how it is. I'm doing the rear bearing first. You see my marker marks here and here line up with my hole, and I just want that hole lined up with that hole. So I'll get her set up here. Our back bearing went in like a breeze. All good. Hopefully, if I can shine. There you go. See how nice that hole got lined up? Happy about that. Going to number 2, that holds up. The other 2 point towards the rocker shaft, so just gonna take my time. I can set my camera up, let you watch a couple. I know you've seen the process before. Another little twist. I can still see my spot there. Looking good. I would guess that I'm getting close. And not yet. A little bit more. I see you got a half a hole showing now. Not sure if that's too bright for you to be able to see it, or maybe part of it. Just a shade more. One light tap. Beautiful. I'm gonna gently take that out. It'll loosen on its own. So 3 big things here. You can see that light through that hole. There's my other 2. And a lot of people might cry about that. There's not really, if anything, I could go just barely more. Get that hole just right. But there's no oil restriction there. If you'll remember on aftermarket heads like a Indy EZ, they restrict the oil hold down. Also on the trick flows, they restrict it down to 1/8 of an inch. So that is well over 1/8 of an inch right there. And it's looking pretty nice lined up. I'm gonna slide my rod through and check it out gently. I don't want to ramrod it through or anything. There it is, nice and wide open. Looks really great. I can try it from the other side too. Those bearings look good. I'm going to test fit the camshaft, and that might scare a lot of people, but I'd rather know now. This is the original camshaft out of that 400 engine. And before I knocked any of those bearings in, I slip fit and checked every single lobe on it. So when this is all said and done, this cam should spin in there freely by fingers. I'm waiting on my other cam for Mr. Rodney Bird, and it'll be the big dog hydraulic roller. But until then, I'm gonna test fit with this one and just a very light film of oil. That's what's in my little paint cap here. Just some good old 1540 Delvac or something. So I'll get my cam handle on. I do have an actual cam handle. It won't spin freely with those 2 lobes. We have large issues. And I don't want to put in all 5 and it not be able to spin. Doesn't actually, there's nothing to nick on the front half of this, so it moves pretty quickly. Now I can start paying close attention. There we go. Like butter, which it should be, but I would not have known if I had checked it. I don't have the cam gear on, and I've got to stick my left hand in the back to keep this thing from shoving through, but typically it hangs out about that much. And you can see it, I mean, it's got a lot of float to it right now. I can also screw my handle back in and show you that she's a smooth operator. The life is good. See if I can keep my finger against it and keep it from floating in and out. I think we're good to go. Let's move on. I got it rolled up here. Time for some freeze plugs. There they are, USA baby. 1 5/8. That came in the milling kit. So I like to put them where the writing, you can actually read it from the side of the block as it's up and down. So I'll put me a little coat of RTV around these. Some people don't like that, but that's how I'm doing it. And get them hammered in. The block will look really pretty with those in next. Well, it's about time to wrap it up for the day. Cam bearings in. Got my bushing installed. Worked out real nice. I got a mystery branded intermediate shaft to try in here. I've got a video about that one. It's good for testing. She rolls nice and smooth. No excessive slack or any of that. I'll pop it out in a minute. All cam bearings, got that plug in. If you'll remember, it haunted my dreams earlier. My rear two plugs. Plug from the bottom, let me show you. And front plug in, just with a little bit of oil on them. So Dave at Rust Bucket Restos now has a block that can be built into a 500 stroker. But I still need y'all to go over to his channel and tell him to send me the crank and rods, please. I appreciate y'all watching, and I will catch you next time. All right, Mopar people.